Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and this is the next video. This is the continuation part of the comparable and comparator video. So previously we had discussed about the comparable, that what exactly is the purpose of using comparable, and we discussed about this particular example wherein we had seen this movie class, and based on this particular movie class we use the comparable interface, and we tried to sort the data as per the requirement, like we did it with the rating, right? So we sort the data based upon the rating, and in this video we'll be discussing about the comparator, that what exactly is the limitation of this comparable is, and based on that we have to move on to the comparator. So if you will see this particular thing, right, comparable, over here we have to come to this particular main class of our movie, and in this movie class only we have to change and we have to do the modification inside of this compare to method. Like if we want to sort the data based upon the name or year, then we have to do the modification inside of this compare to method, right? So that's the reason we want to just get rid of this particular thing, because we don't want to touch the movie class again and again. We just want to make a standard version, like whenever we want to sort the data based upon the year or name, we can do that, right? So that's when the comparator is going to come into the picture, and we'll see its implementation. So again, comparator is also an interface, and it's having its own function, its own method, which is called as the compare, and it's a functional interface. So that's the plus part over here, and we will see that how exactly it can be used in order to get the things done which as per the way we want to. So let me first of all do one thing. I will just instead of comparable, I will just do the thing, like I will, because this is the interface that we have, right? So we need to have a class so that we can define its method, which is compare over here. So I will make this as implementing comparator, and again this is having the similar syntax, so it's going to be something called as movie, which has to be mentioned over here and over here. So this is my compare to method. I won't be touching this particular thing, but at the same time I will be just implementing my compare method, which is the method of this interface, which is called as comparator. So inside of this comparator, like this compare method, we will be having two of the parameters which we want to pass. So I'll call this as O1, which is my first object. So the purpose is basically the same thing. We just want to sort the data, but it's just like it's going to be having different kind of functionality, and we'll see that how exactly it's going to ease the purpose. Okay. So again, it's going to be returning the integer type of thing. So this return O1 dot. So whatever the thing that we want to, based upon whichever way we want to sort the data, we'll be using that thing. So just like as the same way, you can see the similarities going on in between these two methods, right? So over here inside of this compare to method, we only passed on one single, object, right? Movie M, and it was just comparing the movie M object which has been passed to it to itself, right? But at the same time, we are having two different objects over here, and that's going to be done over here in this way. So O1 dot year, O2 dot year, which will be getting the things done. These two objects will be compared, and based upon that it's going to be returning some sort of an integer value. Positive is going to be like O1 is greater than that of O2, and negative is going to be like O2 is greater than that of O1, and it's going to be returning 0. Then that means these two objects are basically equal, right? So the same thing has been done implementing the comparator interface, and it's having its own method which is called as compare, and that's going to be returning some sort of an integer value, right? And this time we are comparing the things with the year. So like you can see that this is an interface, right? And it cannot have a direct some kind of an object. So in order to call this particular thing, this kind of a method that we have defined over here, I will have to create an object for this particular movie class over here, right? So I will call this as movie, and I will say this as object, and that's gonna be like equals to movie, and this thing, that's it. So the object has been created, and this time if I'll have to sort the data, I'll have to pass this particular object over here. And if I'll just call this particular thing, you will see the data is gonna get sort based upon the year when the movie got released. So if I'll run this, you will see this thing is gonna happen. So you can see that 1990, 2000, 2022, 2120, 2200, right? So it's having the same implementation. As of now, if you will say that the question must be coming inside of your mind, then what is the difference? As of now, we have done the same thing, just like as the way we did in the comparable. So comparable was having a different method. We did the same thing inside of the same class, and we mentioned the compare to method. But over here as well, comparator, over here we have just implemented the comparator. We have mentioned this particular method over here, and we have created the object and passed on that. And that's how the things were getting happened. But this is a functional interface. So if you know the concept of something called as the anonymous class, and if you don't know, you can watch my previous video wherein I have explained the anonymous class in detail with several examples. So it is a very detailed video. If you want to just give it a check, you can do that. It's on my channel. And so you will see a different kind of a thing which we can do using this particular thing over here, right? So I'll show you. So like I mentioned, it's the functional interface. So functional interface is having some kind of a plus point that you can also use the concept of anonymous class, so that the method that you have written over here, you don't have to use a separate class for that. You can do that at the same time when you are writing the object of that particular interface. Okay, so let me show you. So I'll just remove this particular thing which we have done, that we have created the object of this movie class. So I'll just remove this particular thing. I'll call this as comparator, and because I need to mention the name of the class that I have, that I'm going to be working on, and I will call this as object. And over here as well, I can remove this particular thing which I've done. I don't need to, touch this. I don't even need to touch this particular movie class now. So I'll just remove this particular thing from here, and it will be done inside of at the time of object creation. So new comparator and this. Okay. So this is now wherein we are going to be defining our anonymous class at the time of object creation. So this is an interface. It cannot have a direct implementation of the object creation. So we're going to be using this particular anonymous class for that. So I'll just take this particular information from here, and I will pass on this particular thing over here. So this is going to be taking care of my something called as the definition of my method. So in functional interface, basically what we want to do, we just want to define our method, right? We just need to have the definition of our method, and that can be done in any of the class. So previously we were working on the movie class itself, but this time we will be defining this method inside of this anonymous class. So how exactly the anonymous class is basically defined at the time of object creation, you just open this particular curly braces over here, and at this particular instance you define your method that you want to mention, right? And if I'll just run this particular code once again, you will see the output coming as the same one. So if I'll just run this particular code, and I'm going to be getting some kind of an error. Okay, so let's take a look what exactly unchecked answer for operations operate. Okay, comparator movie. Okay, so this is something which I haven't mentioned. So it needs to have this thing done so that it won't give us any kind of a syntax error. And now you will see. So you can see that the output is coming in the same way, just like as the way we want to. Previously, we had defined this particular method inside of the movie class, but instead of using that movie class, because we don't want to, give a check on the main class again and again, we just want to work on the things at the same time. So over here itself, you can see that this is my anonymous class, right? And if I want to just do some kind of modification over here, I want to sort my database upon the rating, I can do this thing over here itself. I don't need to go to the movie class again and again. And this is the advantage that we want to have, because previously when we were using the comparable, we had to go to the movie class again and again, and we had to do the modification. But this time over here, I can do the things over here itself inside of my anonymous class, and you will see the data getting sorted based upon the rating. So you can see that 013723, right? So this is one way of writing this comparator method. And if you know the lambda function, then you can reduce this number of lines which are mentioned over here, and you can make the things easy for yourself. So now that we know that it's a functional interface, right? And that's where only we use the lambda function. So lambda function, just is the purpose that we can remove this modifier. Modifier is something like this. Public is something which we can remove. So let me remove the things one by one so that you can have a fair look over here. So modifier is something that we can remove. We can return the, this particular thing return type. And we can also remove this particular method that we have mentioned over here, which is called as compare, because we know that it's a functional interface and it is only having one single method defined in it. So why to write even that particular name, right? It's gonna be, Java is kind of a little bit mature enough, you can say, that it's gonna be able to understand this is the compare method. So I've removed this particular thing, and because now that we have already mentioned that this is my movie class, so it's going to be able to understand that these two parameters which we have passed, O1 and O2, are basically of the movie class itself. So let me remove this thing as well. So movie class is going to be something removed from here. And next thing is that we have already defined this comparator thing, that we don't need to mention this thing again and again, and I can remove this thing over here from here, right? So this thing has been removed. New is something that we don't want, and we have to mention this thing. This is our lambda function. This is the lambda operator that we have mentioned. And the next thing would be like, I have to remove these curly braces because I don't need that. It's coming again and again. And now, okay, so now this O1 and O2, which will be, okay. So this basically O1 and O2 has to be passed over here, not there. O1 and O2, and this is going to be like my definition, right? So let me just run the code. It's going to be working perfectly fine, right? So this is the purpose of using lambda function over here, because it's going to be just reducing the number of the redundancy will be removed because we are mentioning the same thing again and again. And if you want, you can do one more thing over here, that instead of writing this whole thing over here, you can just pass on that particular thing over here itself, and that's also going to serve the purpose for you. Because now that we know collection.sort, and list2 is going to be able to give us the glimpses that we are working on the movie class and we want to sort the data. So that means the comparator has been used, because we're going to be using the lambda function, so it's going to be able to understand that particular part as well. So let me try if I will be able to execute this particular part. Let me just give it a check. Okay, I hope that's gonna work, because this is something which I'm gonna be trying for the very first time. So let me just take a look if that is also gonna be possible. So I'm just commenting this particular thing, and O1 and O2 return. Let me try and execute. Yeah, it's working perfectly fine. So you can see that O1, O2, and now that we have just minimized the number of lines that we wanted to return and that we wanted to define. So I hope the things are pretty much clear to you. Let me just give you the quick summarization. So comparable is basically something which is used when you want to just do the comparison in such a way that you can do the modification inside of the main class again and again, and you just want to define that only for one single time and you can serve your purpose, right? So that's when you use a comparable, and comparator is basically used at the time when you want to make the changes again and again inside of your code. At some point you want to do the modification based upon your years, and maybe at some time later you want to do the sorting thing as per your something called as ratings over here, just by looking at the example. So that's when you use the comparator, and it's going to be serving the purpose because it's going to be reducing the number of lines for you, and that's when you use the comparator. So I'll be just mentioning the link of the Geeks for Geeks because from there only I have used this particular example, so you can have a look. And if you're going to be having any kind of a doubt, you can mention that in the comment box and I will definitely try to give you the answer back. Alright, so that's it in this video. I hope you liked the video, and thanks for watching. See you next time.